Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everybody. Today the lecture is on suppositions in development administration. We are going to learn about the theories in development administration and why do we require these theories in development administration. These theories bring in an ability or enable us to understand the importance of bureaucracy, the role of bureaucracy in development administration. So let's go ahead with the various theories. We will be handling on the theories in international perspectives and theories in national perspective. We have divided this into two because international perspective we have the famous Rixian model theory. The Rixian model speaks about various aspects in development administration, and in the national perspective we will be handling on the Nehruvian model, Gandhian model and Manmohanic model, and of course the present Modi model, the Gujarat model. Rixian model. Theories are something which are really required for us for the development administration of the country. We are talking about how development administration is important for the socio-economic progress and the nation building. So we have certain theories which tell us how the bureaucracy system in the government should be, and what are the various kinds of systems that we have come across these days, all these days. What are the systems of theories that we have come across and how we can implement them in the present structure also. So here we have the Rixian model theory. Friedrichs was a political scientist in formulating the administrative theories and models. He has brought in a famous theory called the Agraria Transitia Industria model. So these models, since we have the three different types of countries called the developed nations, developing countries and the least developing countries. So Rix has formulated these theories for the developing economies. So this Agraria Industria Transitia is mainly for this economy. What is this Agraria and Industria? What is the difference? It is very simple. As the name suggests, Agraria focuses on the agricultural aspect of a country. So Agraria model and the traditional administration can go hand in hand. So Agraria model, you have the first one is livelihood. What is this livelihood here? We practice the agriculture as a main living here. So in the traditional system of administration also, agriculture was the main source of income for the people. And it was also for the vulnerable sections of the society. We did not have various classes like the upper class, the middle class or the lower class. We did not have various classes. So we just had the vulnerable section of the society which focused completely on agriculture. So livelihood, agriculture was for the backward sections. And ascriptive values. Ascriptive were a group of system. It was a group, or I can say a collective group of people who focused on agriculture alone. They had their own values and they were interlinked with the political system of their times. So the political system governed their values, the social aspects and enabled them to progress in the country. So agraria, particularly it is dependent on agriculture. When agriculture persists, today you have a lot of different kinds of employment opportunities. So, but then when agriculture persisted, then we had what is called as a stable local groups. The people were quite stable. They did not have stable in the sense they were very simple. So, the local groups focused only on the simple means of support, livelihood, agriculture, and then income, and then have a very good standard of living. That is all. So, it was a very stable, and they just followed or practiced few norms and regulations that were set up by the political systems of those times. And we had limited spatial mobility. People who practiced agriculture did not have or did not need to move from one place to another place. So, when agricultural system worked, people focused only on bringing out a good agricultural system. So, there was a limited spatial mobility, so people did not move out. And as I told you, it was a stable occupation. There was no other occupation, people completely depended only on agriculture. So, it was a stable occupation, and there was a mix of religion and politics. People did have or they practiced certain customs, certain religion in those times, and politics, that is, they had a patriarchal system. So, the people were governed by the norms fixed by the head of that particular group. So, agraria is that system. Agraria focuses on all these aspects. Slowly, as I told you, as I mentioned in the previous slide, agraria, transitia, industria. So, transitia is from the agrarian system of the society, we transition, we move ahead to the industrial society. So, what happens in an industrial society? It's a predominance of universalistic specialization and achievement of norms. So, that means people started to specialize. So, agriculture, they understood agriculture as a main livelihood was existing, but beyond that their income also has to increase. The society also has to develop more in their system of income generation. So, they started to move ahead with specialization and achievement of norms and regulations to fulfill that specialization. So, when specialization was required, not automatically it is understood that mobility also increases. So, from one place to another place, the people had to move to go for a proper occupation or seek a good employment. So, high degree of social mobility existed during industria. And well developed occupational system, it is absolutely understood that when there is a mobility, you should actually have a well developed occupational system. So, occupational system depends on the universalistic and the specialization and the achievement of the norms. So, this system has to be well developed based on these three factors. And the last is prevalence of voluntary associations performing specific functions. So, slowly they started to have these interest groups, the groups which were actually interested in taking up certain kind of functions to perform, and they started forming the associations. So, prevalence of voluntary associations performing specific functions existed. So, this is what is agraria industria model. It is as simple as moving ahead, that is a transition from the agricultural system to the industrial system. So, that is what was Rick's theory on agraria industria, transitia industria model. But then what happened was that system could not sustain for a long time because of various factors, like those people started moving, mobility was increasing, the agricultural system, actually the occupation started deteriorating. So, people, when they sought for more kind of occupation or more kind of specialization, they did not, the focus actually deteriorated towards agriculture. So, that particular system slowly effaced from the Ricksian theory. Ricks, though he had this the Industria model, Agraria Transitia Industria model, but still that could not be reached to the society in the full manner. So, slowly he moved ahead to what is called as the prismatic fused refracted model. This is a very beautiful model. What happens when light passes through prism? When light passes through prism, it actually gets diffracted. So, the same concept here. So, here you have a structure that passes through the prism and then gets diffracted to what is required for the society. So, Ricks said, now Agraria Industria is what the transition was happening. So, what happens next to it when that becomes a failure? So, he brings in prismatic fused refracted model and says that we have structural functional analysis. What is this structural functional analysis? I can give you an example. The rules today are always to be framed. It is constant. The system, the process of laws to be framed by the legislature is constant. So, that is the structure. That is the structure where the people will have to carry out their functions. So, based on the rules and regulations, the people have to carry out their functions. So, that is what is the structural functional analysis. So, there is a structure and then structure in the form of rules and regulations, and then you perform the functions based on those systems. So, we can have our constitutional principles. These principles, based on that, the entire government system works. So, that is structural functional analysis. Then he moves ahead with the decisional model. Decision making is very, very important. See, decision making, we can, as Simon rightly pointed out, he said about the rationality model, where he involves the design, choice and activity. So, these three are very important. So, when a policy has to be framed, there should be the choice of the people are required, and then the decision is based on, or the designing the model is based on those choices. So, once that is being designed, you have the action plan. So, that portion of decision making is very important. So, Ricks says decision making in a system is very important, because we are going to present the policies, the programs for the welfare of the people. And then he goes to the fused model. Fused model, he says that fused model is where you have a complete system present in this particular model. That is the entire government aspect. It is present in the model. So, when it is a fused model, we can say he compares that with the agrarian system. So, we follow the traditional principles in the fused model. So, agricultural model or the agrarian society, that is a complete traditional administration, he brings under the fused model. And before going to the refracted model, I will go ahead with the prismatic model, which states that it is a model which stands in between the fused and the refracted. Now, what happens in a prism? When the light passes, it diffracts, and then you get this various colors, right. So, the same way in an agrarian system, the traditional system of administration, when it passes through the prism, then it gets refracted, giving you the refracted model, which is the industria, where people work on industrialization. So, the revolution happens, industrial revolution happens. So, the fused model through the prismatic model becomes the refracted model. Now, in the prismatic model, that is the intermediate between the fused and the refracted. Okay. So, fused model, when passes through the prism, becomes a refracted. So, agricultural to industria. So, these are the two extremes. So, in the refracted model, we have new different kinds of principles, new technology upgradation, new economic policies. So, we have a varied change in the refracted model. So, this is what Ricks brings in under prismatic fused refracted model. Now, In the prismatic model, he focuses on the ecological approach. Any model, any theory, a development as such has to focus on the social, economic and political aspects of the community. So, here it is about the ecology. Ecology means you directly related to the ecosystem where you have the community and the government. Between that you have a lot of variables that are interacting between the two. So, ecological approach and development administration through the prismatic model. So, it comprises of three features: heterogeneity, formalism and overlapping. So, these three concepts can be explained in under these implementation of the ecological approach under three aspects. So, first one is a diffracted society. So, ecological approach in development administration can be applied in diffracted society. What is this diffracted society? Equal pay for equal work. So, here let us take an example of an officer whose salary or a compensation is based on his ranking. So, completely it's a full thing, the compensation, the salary, everything comes under one pay. So, there is no separate a divide between the salary and the compensation. So, the entire thing comes as a full package. So, that is equal pay for equal work. So, this is according to the rank of the officer. So, that happens in the diffracted society. So, here you have a heterogeneity happening. Heterogeneity happening here because you have a difference here. There is a difference between the ranks. So, heterogeneity appears here. So, equal pay for equal work. Next comes the implementation, diffracted formalized bureaucratic models. So, here they say that the salary is separate and the compensation is separate. So, salary is it's a constant thing, whereas compensation is based on the achievement. So, that is the reason they have brought in the formalized bureaucratic model, diffracted formalized bureaucratic model, where they bring in a formal structure. So, there is a division between the salary and the compensation being provided. So, again you have the formalism here, there is overlapping. So, overlapping in the sense, in the beginning diffracted society both were together. So, there was an equal pay for equal work based on the ranking, whereas in the diffracted formalized they did not speak about the rank, but then they say salary will be given for the work performed and the compensation based on the achievement will be provided. The third one is a prismatic model. So, here they again combine the duties and status. Here they have introduced the concept of status. More than the rank, it is a status. So, the status of the person is based on his positional classification. So, can we say that it is based on the ranking? Yes, but even in the ranking you have various different positions. So, that is what prismatic model talks about. So, prismatic model says that the status also is considered along with the ranking system. So, a salary is being provided for that and a compensation for the achievement, or I can say a more increment. Increment would be a better word to add on for the achievement. So, that is the prismatic model. So, diffracted society, diffracted formalized bureaucratic models and prismatic model. So, all these three focuses on bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is very, very important in our country. The structure has to be given more importance. So, that is a reason Rix brings in this ecological approach and development administration. Now, under this we have two administrative submodels. One is the Sala model, other one is a bazaar canteen model. Sala here refers to the bureaucrats. So, bureaucrats are considered as Sala according to Rix. He gives that name because he says they are the major people who are involved in development administration. So, he brings in the propositions for the prismatic system. See, bureaucratic power. In prismatic setup, it is intermediate but extremely powerful in decision making. So, bureaucrats are the powerful agents in decision making when compared to the fused or the diffracted society. So, why we speak more or why we focus more on the prismatic? Because it is an intermediate between the fused and the diffracted. So, a lot of changes happen during that period of time. So, that is why we say it is a bureaucratic power is more important. Second one is they find a decline in administrative efficiency. So, it is affected by, what is it affected by? It is affected by corruption, inefficiency in implementation of rule of law, where people are not treated equally. So, there is a inefficiency found, and there is a nepotism in recruitment, where the relations, the friends are being recruited. So, what exactly happens when the friends or the relatives are brought in such kind of an employment? You absolutely find a lot of corruption. You find red tapeism. So, a lot of things happen. So, since there was a decline in administrative efficiency and where the decision making of the bureaucracy is very important, he says these should be the propositions to frame the Sala model. So, what he focuses in Sala model? 1. The polycommunism. Polycommunism, where it is a polycommunal tension. Here he speaks about polycommunal tension because there is always a majority in the population who fight for the right. But what ultimately happens is there are certain rules or laws that overpowers the majority force. So, the majority, they get frustrated and ultimately they become the minority section. So, and then they start turning hostile because their desires, their demands are not fulfilled. So, there happens what is called as a polycommunism, where they stand on their point, their ideologies. So, that is a first dimension under Sala model. So, here he speaks about the cliques. Cliques are nothing but it is a mix of clubs plus elects. The elected people form certain association that is called as the cliques. So, he says they use modern associational techniques. So, elects in the sense it is the political association. The political people who are in that field of politics are considered as elects. So, they form the association with their own ideologies. So, they use the modern associational methods to fulfill the traditional goals. So, they stand for their ideology, that comes under the polycommunism. Second one is polynormativism. Polynormativism is where the people have their own choices, the government has its own choices. The people and the government should come together, only then there would be a development of the nation. So, if there is no consensus between the government and the people, it is there you call it as a polynormativism. So, here there is a deviation that happens. So, there will be a new set of norms and rules that are prevalent, and the deviations of course happen because of the different kind of thought process that exists between the citizens and the government. Then third thing is nepotism. Nepotism, as I told you earlier, it is more of favoritism, where the people, where the bureaucrats, there are chances for the bureaucrats to employ their own people, the relatives and friends. So, that is what he says from the Sala, that is from the bureaucratic structure. So, that is nepotism. The fourth one is authority versus control. So, here the power is highly centralized and there is a concentrated authority. So, authority should not be centralized and control also should not be centralized. You have to decentralize it, you have to delegate it. Only then you have a proper coordination and understanding between the three different tiers of the government. So, these are the various dimensions that RICS gives under the Sala model. Then the next sub system model of RICS is Bazaar Canteen model. Bazaar Canteen, Sala model is prismatic Sala model is where you focus completely on the administrative aspect, but Bazaar Canteen model, it focuses on the economic side of the system of the government. So, here system behaves like a subsidized canteen where the elite groups are given products at a very low rate, but the people coming from outside, they are given a higher price. So, that is what is the canteen model. That is why we call it as a canteen model, where the products are given at a subsidized rate, but then there should be a treatment of equality. People should not be demarcated, or they should not be differentiated based on their caste, creed, gender. No inequality should prevail. But then here he says the system behaves like a subsidized canteen where the products are sold to the elite classes at a lower price, whereas the people coming from outside are being charged very high. So, this leads to price indeterminacy. So, it is very difficult. What happens is when the elite classes are given the lower the products are sold to the elite classes at a very lower price and higher prices to the normal people, of course, there will be a price indeterminacy where you will have the inflation, the price would increase. So, it becomes very difficult to control the price. The bank rates will actually increase, right. So, the lending rates may go low, but then the rates of other aspects will also increase. So, inflation happens during that time of situation. Second is agglomeration of values. So, when the elite classes are given the more benefits, naturally there will be an amassing of wealth. So, wealth consumption, where is the equitable distribution of wealth happening? So, there would be an amassing of wealth in the population, giving the more economic power to the richer class in the society. So, that is the second under Bazaar Canteen model. Third one is intrusive access to elites. So, intrusive access, preference is given more to the elite classes. So, in the prismatic system, see when we have the fused, prismatic and diffracted, the subsystems, one prismatic Sala model and two Bazaar Canteen model. These two models speak about the two characteristics for a country's progress. One, it speaks about the administration, that is your prismatic Sala model, where the bureaucratic power and the decision making should be very good. There should not be nepotism. And second, Bazaar Canteen model, it speaks about the economy, how there should be an economic progress, how the prices should be determined. So, how the system should not go in a subsidized manner. So, these two are required for a proper industrialization transition. Completing with the theories in international perspective, we move ahead with the theories in the national perspective. All of us know Mahatma Gandhi ji. So, he was a very famous freedom fighter, he is a father of our nation, but he too had given us various principles. If you take up the directive principles of state policy in the Indian Constitution, you find more of Gandhian principles there, where you have socialistic model, the liberal intellectual principles prevalent in the directive principles of state policy. So, Gandhi ji also gave us his very own model. He said that Westerners thought that Indians are very lethargic, but then Gandhi ji said, he refuted the thought of the Britishers that India was practicing trade with other countries and civilization is based on region. He said people are not lethargic, rather trade practices are happening. because during the colonial rule, it is not necessary for the Indians to mention what their activities are, because we are fighting for the independence. So automatically trade practices were slowly happening behind the screen. And civilization is based on the religion. So religion, the community started to develop, and so civilization slowly began. And he mentioned the 4 A's which are necessary for development. 1, Anna, which is the work. You work for food. A person requires food for living. Arogya, which means health. Good food gives you good health. So that is most important. Akshar, which is the basic literacy. Every citizen in our country should be literate. Literacy means it's just not learning the alphabet, but you should know about the information that the government gives us. So informational literacy in our country is very, very essential. So he says Akshar, the basic literacy, is very important. Then Acharan, which is the ethical conduct. So these 4 aspects, Anna, Arogya, Akshar and Acharan. So people should have or follow the ethics. So you find all these aspects in our constitution. People require food, people require good health facilities and the right to education, and you have the ethical principles also. He brought in what is called as a satyagraha, that is the constructive program. So he thwarted untouchability. He abolished the practice of untouchability, and he said the cottage industries should be given more importance, because employment starts from the cottage industries. The small scale, medium and the cottage industry should be developed, because in the rural areas that is their main source of livelihood apart from agriculture. So that has to be developed. So here again he clearly stated where the grassroots level of governance is very important for developing the economy in a country. How is it relevant in the today's scenario? Development, number 1, development and environmental sustainability. So we develop, we focus for the country's progress, we focus for the environment. Today we have industries which are actually polluting our country, but he says that focusing on cottage and all this, naturally the environment will be secured. So environmental sustainability was very important. So plantations, no deforestation, more of afforestation should happen in our country, because we are storing this for the future generation also, keeping for us too. So environmental sustainability is very, very important in our country. Second, he speaks on the connect with SDG, that is a sustainable development goal, where he says inclusiveness. Inclusiveness, he says, do not focus only on the lower caste, but also the women. Women, according to Gandhiji, he says they should be treated as queens in the house. But today, women are into empowerment. Women want to have the equality. They search for equality. They want to be treated at par, right? So that is inclusiveness that he says, that focus should be more on the women. So that is why we have a lot of policies for women too. Second one under that is the Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya means universal upliftment. Universal upliftment has got many factors. You uplift the poor from poverty, provide them with education. Today you have many people from the Irular community. If you go towards Tamil Nadu, you find Irular community where they come out of the section of that tribe, they get educated. Some of them have become doctors, some of them have also become academicians too. So those kind of, you need to uplift the children of tomorrow to that kind of a situation. Progress for all, which comes under principle under the SDG, where leave no one behind. That is what is a universal upliftment. And the good of all includes the individual. You treat one person good, the entire society becomes good. treat the individual good. Treat here means provide them with good food, good shelter. The basic needs of the person has to be fulfilled. Apart from today's extra expansion of freedom, where we have the medical facilities, the healthcare facilities, the educational facilities, so all these has to be provided. If you provide it for one individual, the society comes together to benefit the same. To earn livelihood, give the opportunities. We need opportunities today. Though we have opportunities, still we need more opportunities because our population is very high. So, when we have to meet to the demands of the entire population. So, we need more livelihood measures. Then he focuses on cottage industry, handicrafts. Today people make a lot of handicrafts through the cottage industries like coir, things made of coir, the coconut shells, which are being sold abroad at a very high price. The textile industry also is doing a very good job, where we export the textiles to various other countries. So, handicraft, the cottage industry has to be developed. So, that is the relevance of Gandhian model in the present day situation. Then he says about Swadeshi, use what is available in your country. Don't go for the Videshi products. India has got a lot of resources, be it the manpower or the natural resources. We are not able to, or I can say we are not aware of how to use those resources for sustainability. So, the concept of Swadeshi can be equated in the form of food sovereignty and circular economy, which focuses on the environmental sustenance. So, these three, that is, economy can also be improved, the food and the sovereignty of the people can also be focused through this Swadeshi system. And ahimsa. Gandhi's concept of ahimsa can be applied in forest conservation, safety of the alive. So, life of every individual is very important. Today we do find people who are in the vegetative state, but at the same time the law also tells, or law gives them the right to life. That is very important. So, SDG goals, he says, practice ahimsa. Where can we practice ahimsa? In preserving or conserving the forest. Don't harm the environment, don't harm the birds, don't harm the animals. They are required for the ecosystem. They are required for the chain process that happens in the ecosystem. So, conserve them, and safety of the alive, the people who are living, provide them with good safety measures. And governance through promotion of local self-government with citizen participation. How can the local government actually come up with a good governance measure? It is through the citizen participation. Citizens are the gems of the country. So, through their participation, the government can actually develop, it can progress. It is not necessary the government has to take up all the policies or all the demands of the citizens, but they have to take what is relevant. And he says Swaraj, the concept corresponds to social responsibility, SR. Everybody should have a social responsibility along with the participatory democracy. The next is a Nehruvian model, which speaks on industrialization, socialism, agriculture, 5-year plans and democracy. Nehru's model was completely on industrialization. He was a person who brought in the mixed economy in our country. He started with the planning commission. He said that we need to have a plan for 5 years. The country can develop in a long run when we have a planning system. So, he said let us focus on industrialization. So, that was a focus on heavy industries such as steel, iron, power and communication. So, industrialization has to be focused according to Sri Jawaharlal Nehru. Then second is socialism. Socialistic model should also be adopted in the society. Why? Because there is a majority of means of production are owned by the society. So, who makes it? It is the people. The people make it and they sell it to the society. Society again comprises of the same people. So, a socialistic model must be adopted in the system. Third one is agriculture. Agriculture should never be treated away from the principle of our country. It is a base for the development of the economy and technological progress. So, we should introduce a lot of technological aspects in agriculture also to benefit the farmers. So, through that the agriculture can be developed. So, cooperatives should be there, and then you need to have community projects. It is here where many academicians should come together to frame, to bring out a skeletal framework to preserve the agricultural system scientifically as well as in the social aspect too. So, where the human ethical values can be met. And last is democracy. Democracy was the firm belief of Nehru, where he said that alone can resolve the conflicts and issues. People should have the freedom to speak, they should have the freedom to express, give them the democracy. So, issues of social and economic nature can be fulfilled that way. So, he focused again, it is the same importance of public administration. He focused on the policy implementation. He gave importance to the civil service, importance to skill set, village cooperatives, etc. The next is Manmohanomic model. We had Jawaharlal Nehru speaking about the country's welfare, how the economy system should go on, the economy should go on. Here Dr. Manmohan Singh speaks for the economic aspect of the country. So, he was the person who introduced the new economic policy of 1991, and he focused on stabilization and structure. So, stabilization exists only when there is a proper structural function. Structural function where you have the hierarchical system, a proper rules, regulations. So, a stabilization can happen only then. So, stabilization and structural, when joined together, when put together, you have the structural adjustment. So, stabilization here means a reduction of expenditures. It is completely on the economic aspect. So, reduction of expenditures of the government can be done, that has to be happen, and then the restriction on creating the debt for banks. So, there should not be a debt for the banks. The borrowing limit of the bank should also be minimized, should also be decreased. So, reduction of expenditures of the government and the reduction in the creating the debts for the banks should exist. Structural is comprised of increasing export goods and reducing the import goods. So, this also has a structure in the sense there are certain laws or regulations that govern. So, he says let us reduce the import of goods, let us export more. When you export more, the gross domestic income of our country also increases, and withdrawal of control mechanisms can be done with sharpened management skills and increase in production. So, management skills can be developed through the technological aspect. So, bringing in technology can widen the scope for management skills and production also. So, that is the reason we had the liberalization, privatization and globalization during that time frame. He said measures can be taken to save the Indian economy. What are the measures? Fiscal adjustment. So, a fiscal adjustment is the economic adjustment based on the various factors, the import, the export, and how the government can focus on the debt management of the banks, the entire system. So, fiscal adjustment depends on various aspects, and macroeconomic stabilization. So, it is at the higher level, it is not at the small level. We need to focus on the macro aspects of the government, that is the lending, the borrowing. So, all that stabilization should happen. So, these and the fiscal consolidation. Fiscal consolidation is where we need to have a proper consolidation of the income and revenue, the revenue and the expenditure. So, a consolidation should be there for the country for them to be stabilized economically. So, these three measures bring back to normalcy. It brings in the changes in the exports, reduces the trade gap, accumulate the capital and decreases the level of foreign aid. So, ultimately we need to focus on the Swadeshi also. When we focus more on our side, our income will also increase because export should happen. So, this is one of the major idea of Dr. Manmohan Singh. So, he says he introduced the economic reforms through LPG, macro management, economic policy reforms, industrial policies, public sector units, banking and financial sectors, SEBI, mutual funds, NRI investment, fiscal adjustments and the subsidies. Today our economy is actually functioning with all these policies. So, you have the economic policy reforms which keeps happening based on the economic conditions of our country. So, industrial policies, we need to revive the industrial sectors also. Earlier we had literally 15 public sector units, but today we are holding only 3 public sector units, 3 to 5 public sector units. The rest have all come under, the rest all comes under the public private partnership. So, industrial policy plays a major role and the public sector undertakings also, and banking system has also been privatized. We had the nationalized banks, but today we have the privatized banks also. And mutual funds are where the investment happens, people start investing in the funds. So, this is a rotation process that happens within the bank where they are being taken for the infrastructural development of our country. So, mutual funds system is also was also brought into practice. And NRI investment, people who went abroad had to invest in our country. So, what they invest, that is, they have their bank accounts, some of them have the mutual funds, so they automatically invest in our country. So, that is the NRI investment procedures, and ultimately we have the subsidies also. So, subsidies should be provided as a motto for the social welfare of the people. So, these are the major economic reforms which Dr. Manmohan Singh wanted to contribute for the development administration. The next is the Modi-nomics model of development administration. This is introduced, this was actually introduced by our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi through the Gujarat model of development. He says the success of the Gujarat depends on product, place and promotion. So, every state has something unique, utilize that. One state is very good in developing their industry, cottage industry. One state is very good in agricultural development. Focus on the product. What exactly is that? That place is important. Which place we belong to. So, depending on the place, a place is determined by the weather conditions, the climatic conditions, a lot of environmental factors to exist. So, depending on that, focus on the export model over there too. And then promotion is introduce them, introduce the system to the people, introduce the system to the others who are staying, who are unaware about that particular thing. So, 3 aspects is what Gujarat model was successful about. So, his theory of development was very unique. He says desire for power. People always desire for power. Is that very much important? No, don't desire for power. Do the duty and the rest will follow. So, that is his motto. So, desire for power should not exist. 2. Evolution of government systems. So, we need to have government systems, but that not too many agencies. Too many agencies can actually spoil the entire system of the government. If the government has 5 to 10 agencies under one particular department, let them be there. Do not recruit more people and spoil the entire system, which will not help in the development of the society. So, evolution of government systems should also be minimized, or there should be a control in that evolution. Political pressure. Political pressure always exists because there are many parties today. So, the ideologies of various parties are very different. So, there is always a pressure from various other parties towards the present existing party. So, the pressure will exist, but at the same time one has to think about what they can do for the country, what can be done for the welfare of the people. So, though the political pressure exists, this has to be the motto. Fourth one, loss of faith in government service. Never ever should people feel that they have lost the faith. It is a duty of the people who are working in the government service to maintain the trust and faith. People should not lack the faith on the government. So, loss of faith should not be prevalent. Commissions not improving governance. So, governance is very important. Today we have upgraded to what is called as a good governance. So, the commissions which are not improving in the governance need to upgrade towards good governance. So, they need to work harder to reach that particular vision of the government. Importance of technology. We find today a great technological revolution. Without technology, today people even in the remote areas are unable to exist. We use the credit cards, we use the debit cards, we use the Paytm cards. Everything goes cashless transaction. So, technology plays a major role here. Transfer of money becomes very easy. Utility services also become very easy. So, importance of technology should be existing so that quick, effective, efficient system can be arrived at. Rules and delivery. We follow certain aspects. We have various other services, the products which have to be delivered to the people, but then it has to go according to the rules. People should abide by the rules and regulations that are existing in the system. So, rules should be practiced. Measurement of socio-economic impact of government schemes. We have many government schemes today. You have the Pradhan Mantri Yojana scheme. We have Sukanya Samruddhi scheme, where the young children are being given, where you deposit money for the young children, and after 15 to 20 years they get the money back for their education or for their marriage. So, these schemes are given by the government. The post office today also provides, they are the mediator between the government and the people. They offer a lot of services, the schemes to the people. They reach out to the people through various means. So, post office also plays a major role today. So, when these schemes are existing, it is also necessary to know the impact of it, whether it actually is beneficial for the society. Does it meet the economic conditions of the people? So, an impact, an assessment of the impact is very important. That is why we say policy evaluation is very important for a country. We should not go for a policy evaluation in the long run, but then we have to have a policy evaluation in the short run too. It is necessary to find out how the schemes actually reach out to the people. Then the center-state relationship. The relationship between the center and state should be very smooth, because they are very important because of administrative relations, the financial relations also. So, the relationship between the union and the state is very important. They have to work together to achieve the vision as well as the mission of the government. This is ultimately fulfilling the sustainable development goals that are being provided by the United Nations to us. So, the relationship between the union and the state is very important. Public sector privatization. Why do we have this triple P policy today? Because people find that through privatization, the jobs become very easy. It becomes very efficient, promptness, quickness. Though they are based on profit, yet based on that, the efficiency also increases. What the government lacks behind, the skills are not provided for the people working in the government agencies. So what happens is, hiring of the people, when there is a salary hike in the private agencies or the private sectors, people start moving for private jobs. So the government finds it very difficult to recruit those people back to the government, because the government aim is only to provide social welfare. It's a welfare without any kind of profit motive. Whereas private agencies, they do focus on the profit motive. So when these two partner, there will be a share in the profit. Like the government can provide the 50% of the paid up capital and the private starts working. So what happens is, the government gives the rules and regulations and the private agencies will have to work on those. Labor issues. Labor are very important for our country, manpower resources. That is why the issues of the labor should always be taken up seriously. We should not leave it just like that. It has to be taken up very seriously, where they have to be given salary compensation, where their importance has to be taken care, motivational measures, all that is required. So that is a labor issue. And FDI in defense manufacturing. Defense is very important for the protection of our country. The country is completely dependent on the defense. So the weapons, the equipment that is required for the defense should also be wonderful. The manufacturing sector should be good enough to provide us with the latest weapons and artillery. So this is very, very important. So FDI, foreign domestic investment, is required in defense manufacturing. So we have been seeing all these theories, the theories in the international perspective as well as the theories in the national perspective. These two theories are very important. Just to have a recap of what we did. First, we spoke about the Rixian model, where we focused on the agraria, transitia to industria model. And then we had the subsystem, how this particular, that is, we had the prismatic fused diffracted model. So this particular prismatic fused diffracted model, how it will be useful for the society, how it will be useful for ecological approach. Then we dealt with the Sala model and Bazaar canteen model. So this was the international perspective. National perspective, we focused on the Nehruvian system, Gandhian system, Nehruvian system, then Manmohanomic model, and then the model of the Gujarat model of present Prime Minister. So these models are all required. So these actually focus on the development. So the theories from the international and national perspectives, they aim to set right the norms and regulations of the politico-administrative behavior. So the system of politics and bureaucracy should go together. Nepotism should be taken away. Red tapeism should be taken away. Corruption free. We need to have a corrupt free government, corrupt free people. So corrupt free society. So it all starts with what is called as your social responsibility or the civic responsibility. It starts from the people before it goes to the government. So regulations of this politico-administrative behavior has to be regulated in order to reach the development goals. So therefore, the theories of the stalwarts Gandhi, Nehru, Manmohan Singh and Modi would actually push India to become a developed country. Thank you.